Hey guys, welcome to Friday. Welcome to Massive Iron Live. How's everybody doing today? It's Friday. I think we're almost in summer. I'm here in Ohio. I saw a couple days of sun this week. It was a good thing. So, how's everybody going? A few things before we get started. Massive Iron Live is here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. I've been doing this forever, for 8,000 years, forever and ever. And if you ever tune in on a Friday and I'm not here, I'm probably dead. It's probably a good idea to call 911. Anyway, Massive Iron Live, I'm here to answer your questions. If you're new, post up a question on anything, diet, training, nutrition, supplementation, off topic, pretty much anything goes. So feel free to post up your questions. Don't be shy. There are no dumb questions, just sometimes awkward questions, right? So glad to have you here, truly. Massive Iron Live is all about helping you guys reach your goals. It's all about transformative information, trying to get you from point A to point B. We don't get caught down in the minutia or the nonsense. We try to see the bigger picture so you guys can move from point A to point Z without pulling along with you all of the nonsense, right? So before we get started, I would love to encourage you guys to head over to Instagram and follow me at Ben the Barman. I'd love to connect with you over there. I post a lot of content over on Instagram that obviously doesn't work well on video or complements or supplements the video information. If you need coaching, I have one coaching slot available at superlivingtoday.com. Just had somebody graduate this week, meaning I've had somebody on for about 5 months and they feel in their good spot. So I have a client spot open. If you need a good workout, you can check out my website, superlivingtoday.com. More than that, I want you guys to check out teammassiveiron.com. We have a really amazing community, teammassiveiron.com. All right. So let's get into things. A couple logistic things. If your questions don't go through, it's not me ignoring you. It's not me censoring you. It's not me throttling you. Try shortening your questions. Sometimes YouTube will see a word it doesn't like, right? So it'll kind of put you in the penalty box. Try rewriting your question. And if that doesn't work, you can always 100% hit me up on Instagram at Ben the Barman. Slide into my DM. Post your question. I'd be glad to help. I get people that go over there all the time sending me questions, form videos, whatnot. So, man, I'm excited. It was a good week of training. I've been doing the Drunk Russian program. And oddly enough, I found out some interesting information on my heritage related to Russia. But anyway, I've been doing the Drunk Russian program, and I'm putting together a variation of the Drunk Russian that is called the Drunk American. So in the Drunk Russian, you do one set of squats 4 days a week. So you do one set of squats Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and on Wednesday you deadlift. On the Drunk American, I'm squatting and deadlifting on the same day and then doing 4 days of full body work. So that's what I'm doing right now. Yesterday I did deadlifts and squats. I did 500 for multiple sets of 2 yesterday on deadlifts. Doesn't sound like a big deal, right? But I really haven't deadlifted above 375 pounds since age 50. Since I got into ultra running, I have the home gym. I really haven't been heavy deadlifting. I've been deadlifting up to about 375, but I've been slowly trying to build my deadlift up. Things went super well yesterday, and you didn't come here to listen to me blather on about my lifting, but my deadlift feels like it's right about 600 right now. And, I'll take it. I'll be 57 this year. I'm feeling strong. My bench is about 400. My deadlift is about 600. So I feel like I'm in a good place. My squat, I'm still trying to bring that up a little bit. But anyway, let's get on to the questions, shall we? Let's get on to the questions. We got a lot, so we need to get rolling. Stein, happy Friday. Stein was first again today. Donuts and dumbbells and donuts. Client of mine, thanks for tuning in. Yvonne from Team Massive, glad to have you here. Adam, big, hairy, ugly dude. Like if you're new here and you're like, why are people calling him BHUD or Big Hairy Ugly Dude? I don't know. It just kind of started a long, long time ago. I think I cracked the joke once calling myself Big, Hairy, and Ugly, and it just stuck. I mean, I'm a little bit hairy, I'm a little bit big, and I'm a little bit ugly, so it just kind of works. Earlier this week on trap bar deadlifts, I felt like I pulled a muscle in my entire lower back. Barbell rows weren't happening. What is your advice? First off, I want you guys to understand this is kind of part of the process. I don't encourage reckless training. I don't encourage loose training. I'm not trying to say no big deal, but as you get stronger, you're going to pick up strains and pains and aches and, random stuff like this. So my best advice is you always want to take it seriously. So when you're in the gym moving forward, if you feel it during warm-up sets at all, just back away from that lift for the day. We don't want to aggravate it, right? We want to live to fight another day. If you come back to your posterior work, your squats or deadlifts, and the lower back is feeling off, either skip it, push it forward a couple days and give it some more rest, do a very light deload, etc. Do not play with it. You have to kind of dance with the partner you have that day, but don't push it. Don't push it if it feels off during warm-ups. Don't be one of these people that's panic like, I'm going to lose strength. I'm going to lose strength. Okay? You hearing me? Don't be one of those people. Like if you have strength and you temporarily have 2, 3, 4, even 6 weeks where you can't lift at that strength level, don't panic. It's not like you're losing the strength. You're just temporarily taking a little detour away from that strength, if that makes sense. What do we got? Carlton Klein of mine, truck driver. Good morning from the road. Hope everything's good. Big Shelly Turner. Is that right, Shelly? Shelly's not big. I'm so used to calling everybody big on here. Sorry, Shelly. Petite Shelly Turner. Hey, if you want to know of a badass, Shelly is a part of Team Massive Iron, and she might be above 60. Okay, might. But she has some amazing lifts, and it's really fun to watch her kick butt. I'm planning to run Massive Lube for another 6 weeks, but keep all the sets for the big lifts and reduce accessories. Yeah, that's no concerns at all. I like what you're doing. You're not just program hopping. You're evolving things, and different seasons, of lifting are okay. You can do 2 sets for your accessory work, right? There's no harm in that. You can still get a lot of mileage out of 2 sets per exercise. That's what I'm doing right now in the Drunk Russian or the Drunk American. No concerns at all. Just take the bigger picture. It's all about hard training. And no matter how you piece that together, as long as you're training hard, you're good. All right, Big Justin Jones. Good morning, Big Hairy Ugly Dude and Team Massive. Do you recommend changing programs once? Yes. Well, if you like the program you're on in your past bulking phase, and you can continue forward with it. But the best time to try a new program is when you're starting a new bulking phase. Give it 2 to 3 weeks to kind of break in, and then we're really going to start running. So that's why I recommend a bulk phase be probably 4 weeks or 4 months, or longer, because the first 2 to 3 weeks you're acclimating to the demands of a new program, and then you're going to run with that program, if that makes sense. Is starting a new program changing split completely? It can be whatever you want, my friend. There are no rules as long as we train hard. Okay, there are some people that run an upper posterior, and they say, that was all right, I enjoyed it, but I want to try something different. I want to try maybe a torso limbs split. I want to try maybe a push-pull legs, a push-pull arms legs. Maybe I want to add a junk day. There's no harm in doing that when you start a new phase of training. You're using the same lifts, It's not like you're radically reinventing the wheel, right? You're using probably 90, maybe even 100% of the same lifts as you did in the previous program. You're just slicing them differently. So there are no rules, right? The only rule would be, excuse me, if you decide to do like pause jump squats and burpees and a bunch of random crap that wasn't building muscle, then, I'd have to question your sanity, right? But no, there's no rules. You can change your split. You can change the approach. You can incorporate more rest pause. You can really do whatever you'd like. Excuse me. Green today. They were all out of purple. Is vertical bar path on squats important? And would different legs and torso lengths affect that? Limb lengths and leverages can always affect things. Excuse me. Sorry. If you have a longer torso, I have longer arms, I have shorter legs. But no, once you dial in your squat, you get your angle of your knees with the angle of your feet, and your squat is dialed in nicely. Your bar path should be relatively vertical. Now, it's okay to see a little bit of forward movement on your squats. We're going to go the opposite way there because we're mirrored, right? It's okay to see a little bit of deviation on the vertical nature of that squats, just a little deviation. Number one, no one can be perfect. On the squat and deadlift, there's always going to be minor deviations. It's hard to replicate the perfect squat and deadlift over and over and over again 1,000 times a year. It just is. So minor deviations are okay. We still want to take a big breath, brace the core, et cetera, et cetera. So, understand minor deviations are okay, a bar path, but as long as it's pretty much up and down, you're good. You should be dialing in your squat based on your limb lengths and leverages. In the coaching world, when I'm helping somebody, I don't think, what are their limb lengths and leverages, and will that prevent them from, doing a nice squat? No. There are some people that I coach that just can't get to depth because of limb lengths and leverages, but still their bar path is upright. If your bar path is moving way forward, that's a sign that your knees are generally inside of your toe angle, meaning your toes are pointed out here, but your knees are way forward. And when you squat, you kind of do this because you're trying to hit depth and you've run out of room to squat between your legs, so to speak. That's dumbing it down, but Barbell Beauty, happy Friday, Team Massive. She is one of the hardest workers I know. And you know what? No excuses on her part. She's a teacher, a mother of 3 boys, and she finds time. She makes time. Big Jonathan, happy Friday. Big hairy ugly dude. What would be a healthy fast carb source you'd advise after a workout? Well, healthy. Fast digesting carbs. Generally, if you want to get in fast digesting carbs after a workout, we're not concerned with kind of the vehicle. The whole point is to get that insulin moving, right? The whole point is to get some carbs, carbs in your system, the recovery process started, so on and so forth. So, you could do fruit, because there's more simple sugars in the fruits, but it has to digest everything. Honestly, the way I always did things post-workout is I went for a fast digesting carb, and I didn't worry if it was healthy because we're only doing a couple hundred calories here, right? So I would always go for a little chocolate donuts or a little Debbie snack cake or something with faster digesting carbs. And that was about the only time of day that I would break free from that monk life, so to speak. So I think that's a good time to do it. If you're not going to do it then, you want some more, you can't, I mean, you don't really want to do oatmeal. That's the slower digesting carb. It's a more complex carb. I would focus on fruit at that point if you really want to stay healthy. But honestly, man, I would use that time just to do something fast digesting. And Little W is king for post-workout. Some people used to do Pop-Tarts. You can do something where you're getting in about 200 calories, I think is reasonable. Big Joe, client of mine. How's it going, Joe? Good morning. LV King. Morning, Coach. Dr. Mike put out a video yesterday saying why lower frequency might actually be better. The entire industry has become a joke. Thanks. Glad to have a sanity corner over here. Yeah, I mean, sometimes watching the industry is like watching a room full of Super Balls in an earthquake, right? You're just like, where are they going today? I get questions all the time, DMs all the time on Instagram from people, these influencers, these coaches that just constantly confuse everybody. And I don't want to get into the world outside Massive Iron. Like any of you that watch me on Instagram and you watch me here, I try to say in the Massive Iron world, we do this, right? And it's a little bit, I feel a little bit cringe sometimes, like in the Massive Iron world, in this world I created. But it really is a world that I created. I'm trying to create a structure and a world and a form of communication, right? So we can say these are the pillars of success and these are the things that matter. So that's really why I reference it in that way. Let's kind of look at the things that matter. But outside the Massive Iron world, man, I receive so many DMs on a daily basis from people that are confused by all this constant, flip-flopping and videos of the day and stuff like that. Sometimes people come to my channel and they're like, you keep talking about the same things. Yeah, I do. And the moment I stop talking about the same things is the moment that you need to lock me up or shut me down. Okay. Because I'm going to beat the same things. I'm just going to try to teach them in different ways. Like yesterday, I put out a biceps video. My clients, Team Massive, very familiar with these approaches. Bulldozer, rest pause for biceps. 21s or 18s for biceps. Massive curls, which is something I create. You're used to that in the Massive Iron world because those are kind of core ways we train the biceps. But I try to put out information that's consistent, that refocuses people on what works, on the basics, on the cornerstones, on the foundations. So some people do come to this channel and they're like, you keep talking about the same thing over and over again. Yeah, I do. And I will forever because this is the basics and the basics aren't sexy, but I'm going to always try to teach you guys in new ways or teach you guys new things with every video or teach you guys the same principle in a different way so we can kind of unpeel all the layers of the onion and just kind of get to the core of things. Does that make sense? So I had a DM this morning and I posted it about it on Team Massive Iron. Basically, one of the influencers had scared somebody to think that you would acclimate to a lift. Neurologically, somehow you would acclimate to a lift and then you'd have to set it aside because you neurologically adapted to a lift. And this is patent nonsense. As long as you are training hard and you are pushing for more than last time in a safe environment, the body is not going to acclimate, right? So I don't know. I've been doing the same exercises for 38 years, basically the same core exercises. The body doesn't acclimate to stress, right? You don't have to keep changing exercises. Big Billy Baker, what's going on, Team Massive member? Happy Friday. I've saved up all my questions. Good. Bring them on. Is it normal to be hungry on a bulk? Oh, it can be. Because on a bulk, you're doing, you tend to be more frequent feeding and you tend to be getting in more food. There is something you learn as a coach on a cut, and that is when people go longer periods of time between food, hunger tends to be more manageable. So folks that are struggling to lose weight tend to be eating more frequently and eating a lot of junk. And it kind of just is re-signaling this hunger, I'm hungry kind of state. And when you get them actually to space out their food a little bit, or actually go 4 or 6 hours without food, they start to feel less of that hunger impulse. Okay. A lot of hormonal things going on here. Insulin, leptin, that sort of thing. I'm not trying to act like an expert on this stuff, but that's the way it is. Frequent eating sometimes can make you feel hungrier just because of what it's doing, to your insulin and other things. If I truly ate according to my appetite, I'd gain. Yeah, I mean, that's why during a bulk, it's very important that we have a structure as well. A lot of people on a bulk will have up and down days, or they won't have their calories up to the level where they're gaining weight, or they'll overeat. And this is very common. That's something I look for in my bulking clients. We watch weight as religiously during a bulk as we do during a cut, because we do not want you gaining weight too rapidly. Then we're getting into fat bulking territory. Then you're going to turn into fatty McFats. And then the result is I got to do another cut again. I would say it's more important to be consistent in a bulk than it is in a cut. And I'm not encouraging people to, have bad days on a cut. But as long as the scale's moving down on a cut, you're doing okay. But on a bulk, the opposite, as long as the scale's moving up, you're doing okay. No, no. The scale can move up too quickly. So we really, really have to focus on being consistent on a bulk. How do different types of cardio and different levels of intensity, zone 2, et cetera, affect your body and body composition? They don't really affect your body composition, right? Zone 1, I use my own zone structure. Hate me if you will, but I do. Zone 1 is steady state, walking, whatever. You can sustain it for a long period of time. Zone 4, in my world, is all-out sprint, something you can only do for about 10, 12, maybe 15 seconds. So you have zone 1, and you have sustainable for 10, 12, maybe 15 seconds, zone 4. Zone 1 and zone 4. Zone 3 is a step down from sprinting. Zone 4, I really don't want people doing, because you're doing this rapid burst, this explosive stuff. And look, generally, if you're not 24 years old, doing super explosive forms of exercise or cardio probably aren't the brightest thing, right? So zone 3 is kind of that speed up zone. It's a gear down from a sprint where you can sustain it for about a minute and a half. You're shuffling along pretty quickly. Zone 2 is conversational pace, running, elevated, heart rate elevated, running, but at conversation pace, so we can hold a conversation and not feel like, taking a deep breath and then trying to get out of a sentence. So you have zone 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, obviously, you could fit in a zone between 2 and 3 where you could be winded and sustain it, but still to have a conversation in between. But we're splitting hairs. But does it matter for fat loss? No. Body composition? No. It's not going to matter for body composition. It's not like training at one of these zones is going to turn you into a fat burning fireball. It isn't. It's just general steps, general movement. Do you want some stuff that elevates your heart rate a little bit weekly? Optimally for health? Yes, but that's for health. If you don't get in like zone 3 heart rate elevating cardio a week, are you going to be in bad health? No. There are a lot of people that just do things like yoga, tai chi, walking, and they live to be 150 billion years old, right? So while having some cardio in that elevates your heart rate can have some, benefits for health, it's not really needed. The real thing is movement is needed. Movement is life for general health. If you sit all day, like I do, that's not optimal for health. But for body composition, no, forget that. Any minor difference between zone types and how long you stay at fat burning phase and all this kind of hypey cardio stuff, it's really just a trivial difference. Super trivial difference, right? It's not like you go out and do a sprint for 10 seconds and then rest for a minute, do a sprint for 10 seconds, and all of a sudden you're in hyper fat burning phase and you're going to remain your body's going to remain some kind of an anabolic furnace and you're going to burn fat the rest of no, that's the way it's kind of phrased, but in the coaching world, that's not the way it works. The difference is trivial. The thing is always, guys, with fat loss and cardio, number one, forget the word cardio, okay? It's 2024. It's time for us to grow up as a community and talk about movement. What type of movement, not cardio, what type of movement should you be doing? Okay, what type of movement? The kind you like. Doesn't matter. Movement, the more we understand longevity, it's all about movement. Movement, it's not all about movement. I mean, we want to get in our resistance training, but really it's just about movement. Doing something that's not going to tear up your body, right? I don't care if you're bowling. I don't care if you're shooting a bow and arrow. I don't care what it is. Just do something you like. And for the love of all things holy, if you can, get off the treadmill in the gym and go take a walk outside if you can. Is it normal? Is it normal that some days I'm absolutely sucking balls on certain lifts? Yeah. But then getting it, yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That's called the principle of sucking balls. Okay. I expect 1 out of every 3, 1 out of every 4 workouts to suck balls, right? To just not be fun, to be a grind. The thing is, I do not care if a workout is sucking balls, right? I'm going to go in and I'm going to put in the effort. I don't get a pass, right? I don't get you get to take an easy day today because you feel like life is sucking balls, right? No. I'm going to go in the gym and I'm going to do what I can. All we can do in life and all we can do in the gym is what we can, right? You can't always maximize every set. You can't always maximize 80% of sets in the gym. You can't always maximize 50. Some days you're lucky just to maximize a couple, but you do not give yourself a pass. You still train hard, but you still, work as hard as you can on that given day. Does that make sense? WTF is chronic inflammation. The symptoms sound vague. I got to tell you, my friend, you would have to work out. There's something called exercise-induced inflammation, okay? When I would run a trail marathon or a 50K, I'd generally wake up the next couple of days and be 4 to 5 pounds heavier, right? Which doesn't make sense because I'm not out there eating a lot. I would pick up what's called exercise-induced inflammation. So you can pick up exercise-induced inflammation where the muscles are inflamed and you're carrying around a little bit of water. If you are chronically inflamed, that's something for you and your doctor to figure out, because it's hard to exercise to the point where you're chronically inflamed. So that would be kind of a rare condition, something not in my wheelhouse. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a doctor and I know anything about it. I don't know who gets it. I don't know anybody personally that has it. And I respect you guys asking questions, but I'm not going to be one of these fake influencers. I'm not trying to be an influencer. I'm not going to try to be one of these fake mouths that just because he has a YouTube channel tries to become an expert on everything. Like, dear big hairy ugly dude, what the fuck is chronic inflammation? Well, let me school you on a bunch of bullshit I have no idea about. Now, because I'm asked the question, I'm going to inflate my own self-worth and become an expert on everything. Sometimes I'll share opinions, but I'll frame them as opinions. But I hope you guys can always value I will stay in my lane. And I literally have no fucking idea. That's as honest as I can get. I don't know. I've never met anybody with chronic inflammation. That's way outside of my lane. What is your favorite cut of steak? I don't know. That's a good question. Whenever I go to a restaurant, I usually get a different cut every time I do. I'm kind of like playing the field on steak. You know what I'm saying? Like I like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I don't really have a favorite. I don't. I like all the steak. Big Mike M. How do you know you're training hard enough? Well, Mike, I'm training you, so you know. What are the signs to look for? Really, it comes down to, my focus is on getting as much as I can out of this set. Okay? I recovered. I'm going to try to get everything I can out of this set. Number one, I'm not going to try to stop early just because the voice in my head saying, stop. I talked about this on live a couple of weeks ago. How many ever weeks it was. There's always a voice in your head. Not always, but many times there's a voice in your head on sets that will try to get you to stop early. Like on curls, I'll be on rep 7. It'll say, stop. Like, no, I'm not. I have more reps than me, but this is getting hard. Stop. Right? This is, you know what I'm saying? You guys go through this from time to time. You step out of your body a little bit, out of your head, and you look back as an outsider, and things start to get hard on a set, and there can be a voice in your head, not on all lifts, but on certain lifts, that'll be like, stop. And I've learned to recognize that voice. I get that a lot on curls. Why? I don't know. Maybe because I don't find them interesting. I can get to rep 8, and the voice will be like, just stop. Get rep 9 next time. It's getting hard. But I know, like, hey, I can do more reps. I'm not at failure yet. I'm going to push harder. So number one, when you get pushback from that voice, and you're not in a danger zone, you're not going to get injured, you're not going to hurt yourself, push forward. Okay? Control the weight. Now, the rules are meant to be broken. I don't want you to control the weight down on heavy dumbbell rows, barbell rows, and deadlifts. Doing heavy eccentrics on these lifts generally will tear up your lower back. Now, rules are meant to be broken. And this triggers a lot of people when I say this, but I know as a coach, lower back injuries are one of the most common. You can still work your back great to a great degree, to a substantial degree, without controlling the negative on a pendlay row, dumbbell row, or deadlift. We don't want to do that. Some people want to apply rules to the same rules to everything. You want to control the weight down on a lat pull down, a seated cable row, lat pull down. You want to control the weight down on a bench press. You want to control the weight into the hole on a squat. You want control. Control is a good thing. So you want to maintain control. You don't just want to chase reps on seated cable rows, on machine rows, on lat pull downs, right? There's no quality tension, no mechanical tension. While we are not looking for time under tension per se, we're not chasing time under tension. We're chasing quality sets, right? We're chasing, we want to get good mechanical tension. So you see somebody in the gym and they look like a monkey on cocaine, right, on the seated row, right? How's that for a visual, right? You see somebody in the gym doing that. And I just noticed somebody on Team Massive sending me DMs during the live. I just want to see what was going on. Sorry, I thought something was urgent. You see somebody in the gym just chasing reps. You know when they're chasing reps, right? They're just, hey, my program says 10 reps per set. I'm just going to try to go in and get 10 reps. No, you're chasing reps. You're not chasing hard training. So we want to have control, but no, there's exceptions. You don't want to overly control the eccentric on deadlifts, barbell rows, and dumbbell rows. You're going to tear up your lower back. Some people don't like that not everything is black and white. Okay, you hearing me? Some people want every rule to apply to every lift. And there are coaches out there, and I'm not trying to sit on some high horse, but I'm telling you, as somebody that coaches for a living, lower back issues are real. So you get into the business of telling somebody that they have to control an eccentric on deadlifts or control an eccentric on pendlay rows or dumbbell rows, and you're getting in the business of tearing their lower backs up. These are inexperienced coaches that aren't used to working with general population people. Us. It's a kind way of saying us. Some powerlifting coaches are used to coaching people that are just already monsters. They could do eccentrics on anything and their lower back is bulletproof. Us, 90% of your lower back is not bulletproof. So this black and I'm getting down a rabbit trail a little bit, but this black and white world where everybody wants everything to be equally the same for all lifts, that's not smart, okay? That's not wise. Life isn't like that. So I want you guys to understand that. I want you to control the weight during your reps, but understand there are some lifts that if you do so, it's going to tear up your lower back. So we want to try to push the sets as hard as we can, as deep as we can, without getting into the injury zone. On squats and deadlifts and posterior chain movements, I always leave a couple reps in the tank. I never do grinders. Not worth doing grinders on those lifts. Everything else you push as deep as you can when it's still safe and you try to maintain control. And mentally, on top of that, you're like, I want to get as much out of this set as I can. Reps and mechanical tension and stress, and I just want to walk away feeling like I am worked. Does that make sense? Don't try to overthink hard training and turn it into a set of rules and like these are the 7 rules that equal hard training. Hard training is like art. Hard training is like good sex. Okay? Like you can go on paper and you can say the key, you're going to hear some sex expert on YouTube. The key to good sex are these 7 bullet points, right? First you press this button and then you go, and all that kind of stuff. Like, okay, that's great on paper, but the give and take, did you like that? The give and take between you and the barbell and you and the dumbbell, or in the case of sex, you and your partner, it's an art form. It's a dance, right? It's not, there are certainly rules and things to keep in mind, but at the end of the day, it's the dance with you on that set that matters. Does that make sense? It's an art. And first, in lifting, you learn the rules. And then when you understand the rules and you're in a good place, then you go into the gym and create art. And sometimes when you're creating art, you break the rules. What does that mean, big, hairy, ugly dude? That means maybe on the last set of curls, I'm 5-6 reps in and I'm just feeling it, man. I'm feeling this weird kind of mojo where I want to go brutal. So I start doing, I'm going to do as many cheat reps as I can and just feeling the biceps until they're torched. So I start doing cheat reps on the last set of easy bar curls at rep 5, and someone's busting a gonad because they're like, holy crap, what is he doing? That's poor training. That doesn't make sense. But I'm in the moment. I just did 2 sets for max safe reps on curls. And I can feel the biceps. I can feel the contraction. Everything's going well with the cheat curls. And I'm really getting a lot out of it. Are you hearing me? Sometimes you break the rules because you're feeling something in the moment. And on paper, it doesn't make sense. But in the middle of a hard set, it's just allowing you to get after it. Does that make sense? Big Ernie Peterson. How's it going? Faydam, if you lose some reps on an exercise, how many sessions of poor performance? You shouldn't be losing reps consistently. If you are, generally something's wrong, like your nutrition. If it's not an injury, people don't lose reps over and over again. That's usually nutrition, honestly. So if that's something you're running into, I would bet the house that your nutrition's inconsistent. And look, I don't know you. I don't know what you look like. I don't know where you're from. I'm not trying to judge you, and I'm not trying to make a blanket statement. But I do know when someone tells me that they're losing reps over and over again, and if I ask them if their nutrition's good, they're going to say yes, but it's not bodybuilding good. That doesn't mean you're eating poorly, but there are certain ways you must eat to build muscle. Consistency, protein intake, getting in enough calories so your weight's going up. There's certain things you have to have in place. And a lot of times when people aren't building muscle, or they're losing reps or losing strength, and they come to me and they're like, and I'll say your nutrition, they'll go, my nutrition's good. If I look at your nutrition, I guarantee I will find things that are naughty, inconsistency, not enough protein, you're not eating enough on the weekends, you're drinking too much a couple nights a week. And I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to help you build muscle. So if I am saying, I'm certain if I look at your nutrition and say, I can find things, what we need to do as a response is go, okay, what can I improve? Does that make sense? Are you hearing me? Troy S. Hey, boss, your bench seems to be getting a bit outrageous. Did you hear right? It's about 400 right now. What do you think your limit will be as you advance to your 50s? I don't know, man. I'll be 57 this fall, and I don't wake up every day to be a power lifter or to have power lifter numbers. But I do find it curious that I'm still feeling great. I've trained like normal. The only exercise I'm having a little bit of issues with right now is I have a little bit of, knee issues with squats. My knees, I'm coming off a knee injury 2 years ago. I'm still able to squat. I squatted yesterday. I'm still able to squat in the 300s. I just don't think I'll be a 500-pound squatter again. Does that make sense? It's not like I have knee issues, but, as you age, some things just change. My deadlift is around 600, and I really haven't deadlifted heavy since age 50, 6 years. My deadlift's around 600. My bench is around 400. My overhead press is close to 300. I'm really happy with my numbers. I don't know about limits. I don't want to think about them. I just want to continue to do what I can do on that day. Things are going to break down. Sooner or later, the old wrist is going to go, my sound effect. It's going to go, Like when you're like 62 or something, you're like, oh, the wheel fell off there. No more duct tape left. I guess I'm screwed. That's the way it's going to go, but that's the way I'm going to go out. Right? Because I would rather go out fighting and having pieces fall off the bus than to be some schmuck sitting on a couch, going out that way. Are you hearing me? Big Ernie Peterson. Dr. Mike is a charlatan and a click hustler. There's nothing science-based about him. I will say I'm not going to talk specifically about Dr. Mike, but there's a lot of the word science-based is way overused in this day and age. It just is for things that aren't the scientific method or aren't scientifically sound. Dr. Mike is sound, right? And this is Ernie's opinion, and I'm sharing it because we're going to talk about it like adults. Science cannot ignore the last 70 years of data, spit in its face, and say, you don't matter. What do I mean by this? The cornerstone of the massive iron world is history-based. It's always been, always will be. History-based is not anti-science. History, or the accrual of data, is vital to science. We have this going on in the real world. How do we analyze it? Not let's ignore what's going on in the real world and create a random rule. That's not science. So, if you have 70 years of lifting and literally 100,000 billion, trillion, whatever successful lifters, if I came to you and there was a study on rest pause training, and I like rest pause training and I think it's effective, but I think it's optional. If there was one study that came out on rest pause training that showed it beat non-rest pause training by 17.2%, that's not, I don't go out and make a video saying this is the new science-based way to train. That's not science. Science says a new study showed we need more information. If you look at examine.com or anybody that does a meta-analysis, one study is not science. Now, taking it a step further, if you look at the history of lifting, all the lifters that's ever been successful, is rest pause training required to get pretty freaking big? We're not going to say to reach your natural potential. We're going to say to get damn big. No. How do we know? Most lifters don't do it. There are things that are required. These are what we call the pillars of success in the massive iron world. Things you must do and optional tools. That's the beautiful thing about lifting. You can do your supersets, you can do your rest pause, you can do your drop sets, you can do your maximizing every set to failure, or maybe you can do 4 sets and only one of them to failure. There's no special way. As long as you're focused on training hard over the long run, being consistent, being patient, trying to get the most out of the sets you can, nailing your nutrition, those are the pillars of success. Picking out one thing out of your butthole and calling it science-based is not science. Science would look at, okay, we have an outcome. We're going to compare that to the last 60 to 70 years of lifting. Okay? This outcome said there was a slight benefit, and there could well have been, but does that make that mandatory? Does that make that the only way to train? Do we all of a sudden have to drink that Kool-Aid? No, because we need more information. Part of more information is understanding that it's an optional tool. Many optional tools can outperform people just doing random crap. Are you hearing me? Random crap, kind of training, not as hard as they should be. Average people in study, okay? Other people in study forced to do something harder. Rest, pause, drop sets, supersets, more volume. They're forced to do something harder than average person. Does that make rest pause the way? Does that make adding more volume the way? Does that make doing drop sets the way? Does that make doing occlusion training the way? No. All it means is that this tool, when compared to floundering and futility, is better, right? And that's the beautiful thing about lifting. It can be art. You can take different tools. You can fasten them together in ways no one thought about. You can create a beautiful music, a beautiful piece of music, a beautiful piece of art. You can create a very unique training system, right? Are you hearing me? That might not make sense to other people, and they'll go out on the internet and crucify you. But because you are training hard and training harder, right? You're training harder than the people right here. You're going to see progress because hard training and things that are pieced together to facilitate hard training, that's the magic. Are you guys hearing me? How to structure RIR? I don't do that. I don't, not in my world. You can go, I mean, I'm not being short, but you can find some other. I don't do RIR, right? I don't. Number one, too many people, it's a guessing game, and I'm not in the gym to guess. I'm not trying to sound holier than thou, but I don't want to have to guess at how hard a set is. There's nothing in my world that involves RIR. I don't structure any of my plans. I don't structure any of my workouts, and I don't particularly care to guess. Like if you want to structure, you can structure a program that'll work you hard, that has RIR, if you are truly working to that RIR. But if you tell me to stop 4 reps short of failure on curls, I don't have any idea what that is because I'm in the middle of the set giving it. And I can guess, but I don't like guessing. I don't see any point in it. And honestly, it's one of my least favorite tools. We know people are bad enough at guessing in general. And then we're going to try to use it as kind of an arbitrary tool to fasten together some way to build hypertrophy. I think it's like making the process more difficult. If Steve's bench max is really above 400, then he needs no, it's not. It's around 400-ish. Around 400-ish. It's not above 400, and I don't want anybody to hear me wrong. I did some sets recently in the last 2 months that surprised me because I'd really been doing like 225 by 5 by 10 for a long period of time. And when I worked up to 275 and 315, some of the outcomes I did surprised me, right? Reps I was able to do at 315. So my bench, I've been saying my bench is around 400-ish. I haven't officially tested it, and I don't like to do that. I like to back up everything I do. There's videos on everything I've basically ever done on this channel. I've hit a 645 Romanian deadlift that's on this channel. I think I've hit a 275-pound Englishy dumbbell row for 10 reps that's on this channel. I think the only lift not on this channel is the 405 by 5 Pendley row. But everything else, every powerlifting meet, every major lift is on here, and I don't ever want to mislead anybody. Doing plat squats with plate under heels for 7 weeks, and I cannot progress anymore on it. If you can't progress in 7 weeks at all, that's not necessarily time to abort. I would need to know more information. Number one, I'd like to look at your diet, make sure your nutrition, your bulk is consistent. Number two, I don't know your existing strength levels, and I made a video about it this week. If you only gain 1 rep every 7 to 8 weeks, that can build an incredible amount of strength over the course of a year, over the course of 3 years. So if you're an intermediate, that could be normal. Okay. But I need to know more information. We just don't arbitrarily change lifts because something's not moving. Number one, we need to look at our diet. Number two, we need to look at our expectations. What tips can you give for recording as quickly as possible after recovering as quickly as possible after heavy deadlifting? Why? Oh, sorry. I thought you meant set to set. My apologies. I thought you meant after each set going into the next set. And I was going to say, why would we want to rush that? Misunderstanding. Sorry. When you get out of bed the next morning, that's how I feel. I deadlifted yesterday. It's just part of the process. It's just simply part of the process. You know, you're going to work hard. You're going to feel like that the next day. The problem is a lot of lifters want to go 6 days a week when their body's saying they go and then their body's saying, whoa. We have to honor that. That's called recovery. There's nothing you can do to speed recovery. You can do all the hot baths and all the perfect nutrition, but at the end of the day, it's going to have a trivial impact on the body. This is a rite of passage, my friend. This is how it works. You train hard, the body is sore. You give it time to strengthen, and then you go back in and kill it again. All right, guys, we are about an hour in. I'm going to take a drink. I'll stay on as long as you guys have questions, so keep the questions coming. Let me get a quick drink. All right. So they're all out of purple monsters. The Speedway I go to, I like to do monsters on a Friday. I thought that said Parasite. The Speedway I go to had 4 monsters for $8. Right? I got 2 more in the fridge. But they were out of purple. Like, you just can't win in life. I never bother to think about RIR. I just go to failure on every working set. I never go through hard grinders. That's good training, man. I mean, you don't have to push every set for maximum reps, but it's a good focus. RIR, if you want to devise, if you want to go out there and become a mad scientist and create an RIR program, and you put a lot of thought into it, you have my blessing. I'm just not going to run it. I'm not sitting up on my holy chair like Crom, and a lot of people don't know who Crom is. Y'all need to watch Conan the Barbarian if you don't know what Crom is. Knowing who Crom is a vital cornerstone, a foundation of building muscle. If you do not know who Crom is, you need to beg for Crom's forgiveness and watch Conan or read the Conan comic books. Seriously, though, I'm not going to sit on some high chair and say, you people who RIR are deviants and you should be scolded, right? I'm just not going to run it because I don't have any interest in it. You can go out and fasten the best RIR program with RIRs here and RIRs there. A couple 2-tree RIRs over here. A little sprinkle of 1 RIR over there. Right? I'm not going to run it. I just don't like RIR. I don't find it valuable. It's not something I plug into my world. If you find it valuable, use it. All I care about is your gains. If you find it a valuable tool, use it. We're not going to fight about it. I just don't like it. Just because I don't like it don't mean you can't like it. Big Paul Velasquez, what's going on? Mr. Tequila, Big Paul Velasquez, what's going on? Team Massive. Back movements are an exception, though. Once I can reach full ROM, I still do some partials. You can do partials. The thing about back exercises is when your speed starts to slow on your rows or your pulls, that's kind of form failure. You still might be able to cheat a couple of reps and still get some back stress. So on a penalty or a barbell row, let's say you hit a rep where your speed slows and you can't even get it to your chest, right? You can do a couple of Englishy rows where you can feel your back to kind of smack it while it's down, so to speak. Richard, how's it going? Richard, have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. What are some underrated shoulder exercises? That's a tough question, my friend, because there really aren't a lot of good shoulder exercises. I don't particularly like upright rows, though I've run them over the years. I would say, though, if there was two underrated shoulder exercises, number one would be the high pull. Now you have the upright row, which is more controlled. I look a little limp wrist, the upright row, just entertaining myself. But there's something called the high pull where it's a little bit more explosive. And when you're being explosive, you can still drive the elbows up to feel that weight. I like the high pull. It allows me to use a little bit more explosiveness. It feels better on my shoulders, and I can still feel my shoulders, and I get a little bit more of a progression opportunity. So I think if we want to bust free of the same old, that's a good option. The bulldozer lateral, which I created, that exercise variation, where you start with the weight on the off side, and then you get a little bit of extra speed development. I think that's a great lift, and it offers an opportunity for progressive overload. Those would be the two, in my opinion. Of course, everybody in this day and age likes the military press, the standing. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with the push press variation either. Though I will say I find it interesting that the general lifting community can get around the Englishy push press. But if you do dumbbell rows off the floor, people start laying eggs, right? Anyway, that's a subject for another time. Seated variations are extremely underrated. You get to lean back a little bit, just a little bit. When you're upright, you kind of have to push, make sure you're not smacking the bar in your face. So you have to kind of lean back anyway. Or get your head out of the way, get that big fat watermelon head out of the way. That big ugly thing your mama gave you, that bowling ball with eyes, whatever that ugly thing is on your shoulders. You have to get that out of the way. So on a seated press, you can lean back just a little bit. You don't have to press forward and around your big fat watermelon head. It's really good for the side delts. It's not as hard on the lower back. And generally, from the seated position, we are stronger. And it goes without saying, if you can do a seated press or a seated press, barbell, and dumbbell, and be a little bit stronger, then it's only beneficial. So I think seateds are underrated in general. Andreas, how's it going? Andreas, welcome to the party. Steve put out a community lifting challenge. I should. I need to get some challenges done for next month because we screwed up this month. I screwed up this month. So I'll think about it. What are some good plant-based protein sources? Beef, bison, things that eat plants. Hey, Andreas, thanks for tuning in. What are some good plant-based choices? I don't know. I had a client ask me for some good plant-based choices this week, and I went to AI. I did. I went to AI, and I said, what are some plant-based protein sources that we can combine to get more of a full spectrum of amino acid intake? And it gave a bunch of things. Beans and rice, things like that are pretty reasonable. I'm no expert on this, though, man. I'm not a plant-based protein source guy, so may the force be with you. Troy noted some great form cues used by some of your clients. Abby, which of your clients, Team Massive members, should I be taking notice of? Abby is what I call the classic worker, and that's the highest compliment. Workers. What's a worker? I give them a program and they work. Now, Abby's not a client of mine, but they get a program and they work. They get a diet and they stick to it. There's no constant moving around programs, moving around exercise, moving around diets. There's nothing wrong with trying a few new things. But when someone is constantly doing this stuff, it's like I feel like my head is in the movie Scanners and it's about to explode. A worker is the best thing you can be. I know I'm going to tune into that worker and they're going to be working. And I know exactly what they're going to be doing. And if they want to make small changes, they'll let me know and we agree and we move on. But there's not this earthquake going on. Troy is a worker. You are a worker. Okay? Eric is a worker. Okay? Harut is a worker. He's on here. Thomas Massey, one of my clients, he's on here. He's a worker. I'm not trying to leave anybody out. I'm just looking at who's on. All workers. I tune in. I know what they're going to be doing. So we can expedite the process. And then we just have to fine tune the details. Right? A worker is just kind of staying on the tracks. And as they're moving along the tracks, what are we doing? We're evolving things based on needs. A worker will focus on the process. And then along the way, they'll see little things they want to change. This exercise isn't working. This food choice isn't working. I feel like I need more calories there. We're evolving programming based on needs. That is one of the pillars of success in my world. And people will ask, what does it mean? You can't find out if you're not being a worker. If you're not on the tracks just going forward with a plan. Then along the way, you're like, hey, man, I don't really like barbell rows at this rep, or this is feeling rough on my lower back. Can we try this instead? Yeah, that's evolving training based on needs. You want to pay attention to Abby? We have so many people on Team Massive. Bryce. I'm talking about people that are my clients. Shelly. Man, there's so many of them. I can't even begin. Brutus the Barber Beefcake, how's it going? Bet you $1 million I'm hairier than you. That's just a start. Maybe you are. That's not the hairiest chest in the world. If you look close, I got ear hairs. Like you'll see like ear hairs just hanging off. I don't know. You can usually like just pick one. You can just like usually pick an ear hair off. Like you can find a random one. I don't know. I don't know if you can see it. You just like, I mean, that's not the, just joking. My back's not super hairy. So you probably are. Big JP. Just what you tuned in for, to see me pulling an ear hair off my ear. I know my nose hairs tend to grow like weeds. I do full body 3 times a week. My chest would be a flat bench, incline of flies. Dips is a good exercise, but like when you have dips, incline, and flies, that's okay. It's not bad. It's not bad, but I kind of would rather see you getting rid of flies, to be honest with you. I'd like to see like flat bench, dumbbell incline, and dips. Flies are kind of the bottom of the barrel. Now you could put in barrel press instead of flies, which is like a half fly. Dogs are going crazy. And then put in dips. But I mean, you don't need flat bench in there. I'm just looking about the overall totality of the program for chest. Whenever I incorporate squats and deadlifts, I end up hurting my back. Is there a good way around it? Number one, we need to focus on form. And this is something I talk about over and over and over again. You need to get on Team Massive Iron. You need to send me form videos, moderate, lightweight. We need to work on form because 9 times out of 10, it's a collision of average form, not bad form. You just might need some form improvement along with general lower back weakness. So you need form plus time. This doesn't mean the state you're in right now, you can never squat or deadlift, but you're a perfect example. We need to get you on the tracks. We need to constantly be working on form before we aggressively overload. And we need to give it time. Does that make sense? So I would put these lifts on a back burner. I mean, you could still do them. I would maybe change the deadlift to a hex bar deadlift if you could, to be a little bit more upright, a little bit more lower back friendly. And I would definitely work on form. Now, when I tell people to work on form, they're like, okay, I'm going to go work on form. Guys, one of the best things you can do is join Team Massive Iron. Okay? It's not like I'm making $1 million off this thing. It costs me about $150 a month to keep that website up. So any money we make from there basically goes back into the site. Plus, I'm giving away crap all the time on there. So it's a break even. Let's be real. I want you guys to understand this. So when I ask you to join Team Massive, yes, there's a small gatekeeping fee, right? To keep out trolls and whatever. But I try to give you value. If you want value, if you want form checks and you want your questions answered, I'm going to help you on Team Massive. Outside of this individual asking the question, I have a challenge for you guys. Hear me out. So many people are serious about lifting. And this is a problem I talk about over and over and over again. And if you're one of these people that know they don't have perfect form on squats and deads, and or have been struggling with minor lower back injuries over time, why aren't you getting form help from me? Did that resonate a little bit? Why? I'm offering to do it for free. You can send me a DM on Instagram. You can join Team Massive. On Team Massive, there are a lot of people on there that don't send form videos. If you're on Team Massive, why aren't you sending form videos? Do you not know I want to help you? Seriously, though, I see so many people I want to help, but I won't stick my beak in their business. Get help, right? I'm not trying to sell you crap. I have a full boatload of coaching clients. I'd love to work with you coaching, but I keep a full boat. I work hard to help everybody I can. It's what I do from sun up to sundown. It's seriously. 75% of team members on Team Massive don't even ask for help. I'm not being critical. I want to help you guys. If you are serious about your results, then let me help you. Is it better to improve bench by going up weight or up reps? It's the same process, Ray. It's not one or the other. You go up in reps, then you add weight, and the reps go down a little bit. Then you go back up in reps, add weight, and the reps go down a little bit. Let's say you're doing 170 by 10 on bench. Okay, you're doing 170 by 3. That's way too low. Okay? That's way too low for the level you're at. You don't need to be going low reps. You do one set like that, that's fine. But you need to get up some volume into that program. You're the classic early intermediate doing way too low reps. You need to get some reps up into that program. Going from 3 to 4, you're going to take forever. You need to get some volume up in that program. I don't care if you do one low rep set, but your back down sets, you need to get some reps between 8, 10, and 12. All right, thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. I always end up with acute lower back pain whenever I end up putting in squats and deadlifts. I don't know if it's healed completely. And this is what I just talked about. We just covered this, but I want to encourage you to send me a DM of your form light if your back is feeling okay on Instagram at Ben the Barman, or come join Team Massive. Because you donated, I will return that kindness with a favor. I will give you access to Team Massive. Okay? You just got to contact me. I will help you with form. But if your back doesn't feel good and you're not sure, you don't need to do squats and deadlifts. You can do hex bar deads, or you can just do general back work. If squats bother you, you don't need to do squats. We can find other exercises you can do to build your quads. You're not trying to be Mr. Olympia. You're not trying to be the squat champion of the world. If you want to do them, though, I will help you do them. I'm late, but I'm here. Glad to have you. Have a great weekend. You too, my friend. Cosmic Bear. Max safe reps on last progression protocol. The first 2 sets need to be held back a bit in order to go. How do you know when to stop? Well, basically what we're doing is straight sets. So let's say you're doing barbell rows and you're doing 8 reps, max reps. You stop at 8. Not every set of every exercise needs to be pushed to failure, but if you want to push them to failure, you can. So you can do max, but then you're maximizing every set. If you want to do last set max reps, which is something I like, then you do like 10-10 max, 8-8 max. And on the max, when you're +2 above the other sets, then you move up in weight. Does that make sense? Why buffalo bar? A buffalo bar or bull bar is curved. It's longer, a little bit longer. That length and that curve allows you to get under the bar without tearing up your shoulders as much. As you get bigger, and like size-wise, it gets harder to get your hands under the bar because it's harder to push them back. It's not a mobility issue. You just have more back mass, and you're putting the bar in an area that's further back. Now, that might sound trivial, but a half inch, an inch makes a big deal. It gets harder to get under the bar, and it can really tear up your shoulders. So a buffalo bar or bull bar is curved. That allows to relieve some pressure and stress on the shoulders. For the younger guys, that's not really much of an issue. But as you age, you want to protect your shoulders. So a safety squat bar, a buffalo bar, or bull bar allows some relief of shoulder stress. Harut. Hello, everybody. Do barbell rows have a significant value for somebody else doing pendlay rows? Do barbell rows have any significant value? You could do variations every other week. The problem is when people get strong on a barbell row, they start to tend to get more and more upright because it can place inherently more stress on your lower back. So a barbell row, a heavy barbell row can be done properly, but it requires a lot more discipline than we talk about. So if done right, it's a case of variation. But honestly, if we're going to get into the world of variation, I would rather have you doing pendley rows and T-bar rows, dumbbell rows, and Meadows rows. I would rather have you doing those types of variations rather than barbell rows. Just a personal thing. Influencer, you need 72 hard sets per muscle group per week. If I won the lottery and had all the time in the world to lift, I would not. I'd still do the same thing because I don't want my body to be destroyed. Next week, you need 4 sets to get results. So confusing. Thanks for keeping it real. Thank you for your support. Hanging around waiting for the food to settle before a shoulder full body. Steve, please elaborate on 3's max type of lifts and your implementation of various exercises. 3's is a protocol. A lot of people ask me why we do back down sets or 3's. 3's, you start with a range on a heavier lift, about 5 to 7, 5 to 8 reps. Then you back down 10% and you do max safe reps. You back down 10% and you do max safe reps. Now, there's no magic rep scheme. We all understand this, and this is something I teach. But when you back down 10% on a really heavy lift, you get a mental boost. This feels lighter. Your central nervous system is more engaged because of the heavier work. So when you back down, it's like, this feels lighter. Okay? So you get a mental boost and a physical boost. So now you're going to push a set for max safe reps that feels lighter. Boom, you get a boost. Now the next set, the third set, the hardest set, you're already pretty worked, but you get to drop weight a little bit more. So you get another mental and physical boost. So you get a little bit of boost the deeper in you get, kind of a little bit more sustainable. Does that make sense? And you really want to do it on exercises where you don't mind changing weight. Sam, how often do you recommend deloads? Sam, I have a very complete video on this, and I'm not being dismissive, but I think it can really help anybody interested in deloads. Go to my main channel and search deloads. Here's what I want you guys to think of. I don't want you just to arbitrarily plan deloads. If you want to take a week off every 3 to 4 months and frolic in the woods naked and, eat Pop-Tarts, whatever you freaks do, go ahead. Taking a week off after every training phase is perfectly okay. But arbitrarily scheduling in deloads every 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Here's what I want to tell you. Your upcoming year is going to try to take time away from, take you away from the gym as it is. Think about it. You're going to have time where you're sick, can't train. Time when work or life or studies gets in the way, you can't train. Time when your wife or girlfriend wants you to do something and you can't train. Time when you pick up a strain pain or a small injury, you can't train. Your birthdays, holidays, celebrations, can't train. When you feel beat up, overworked, take a couple of days away from the gym. If you think about all the things that try to pull you away from the gym over the course of a year, holidays and birthdays and sicknesses and injuries and random crap and work and life and whatever, and then you're taking off a few extra days here to repair, recover when you feel beat up. We have a lot of natural time away from the gym. So we don't want to over-program arbitrary deloads. Does that make sense? The best time to program a deload is after a training phase. Now, I know there are voices out there that are like, I train a deload every 3 to 4. Yeah, they're more advanced lifters. If they want to do that, fine. We're in the grind, okay? We're average Schmo Joe and Susan. We're just trying to grind up to the point where we feel in the grind. You know what I'm saying? Are you hearing me? We're trying to get to the point where we're just like building muscle like a routine, and then we're going to feel happy. And then if we want to program in a deload every 3 or 4 months, go ahead. But a lot of times you'll get these strength-focused principles that'll invade hypertrophy. And if you have your recovery balanced pretty well, you aren't going to need to take frequent deloads. Does that make sense? Andreas, views on various barbell rows. Penalty row is the king for me because you can set the weight down, you can take a deep breath, you can brace, and then you can really focus that power. I really feel I can focus on the next rep when I do penalty rows. Barbell rows tend to get sloppy. They can be done correctly, but the heavier they get, because we can't set the weight down, we tend to get more upright over time. And then all of a sudden, you can still feel your back, but the range of motion is reduced. I think the power generation is reduced because when you're not pulling off the ground, when you're pulling from a dead stop, you're going to have physics. The torso is going to, move to accommodate that. Whereas if you're pulling off the ground, you have a good stable position to pull from. Barbell rows can be okay when done properly and not turned into a power cheat. Yates rows can be done okay under the same conditions, but we have to be super disciplined with them. Does that make sense? Can you explain why you don't recommend zone 4 cardio for certain people? I don't recommend it for anybody. It's called sprinting. All-out explosive exercise is just dangerous. It's inherently dangerous. Oh, but sprinters do it? Yeah, well, they're young and sprinters. Oh, well, there's some older sprinters. Well, God bless them. But explosive exercise is inherently dangerous for us, the average schmo. Doing a lot of box jumps or sprints, it's just not something we don't want to do. Explosive exercise in general. The more explosive it is, the greater the risk. I'm not in the gym to risk my health. I'm not trying to be an over paranoid idiot, but I also want to reduce injury risk. Anthony, man buns versus mullets. If it was, what's that movie where you have that day where you get to just go out and do whatever you want? What's that horror movie? That's my polite way of saying take care of people. If there was a day where we just got to go out with the scissors and anybody with a man bun or mullet, we got to chop it off them without penalty, I'd go after the man buns. Yeah, the purge, that's it. If we had like man bun versus mullet purge, what would you do? If you got to purge a man bun or a mullet, or even someone with cotton candy hair like purple or pink or whatever, or all these kids are wearing these Elmer Fudd glasses that look super big, what would you purge? Would you purge the man bun, the mullet, the purple hair, or the big glasses? I'd purge the man buns. They're I don't know why we call them man buns, because everywhere I go now, women are wearing them. You got to get a little bun up top. Women used to do ponytails and pigtails. Now they do this bun on top. Nothing says I haven't showered in 3 days like that bun on top of a woman's head. No offense. I just know you haven't showered. because you're walking into the grocery store / convenience store / gas station / Kroger / Walmart in your jams with your sliders and your little bun on your head. And I don't even need to get near you to know that you haven't showered in a while. Just humor. Just humor, folks. All right. Pause. Okay. Thomas, happy Friday. Thanks for joining in. When do you know you need to rotate? You don't. You don't need to rotate a lift out. If you don't like it, get it out of there. There's no need to rotate a lift out, though. There's no need. There's no reason. There's no urgent need. If it's beating up your body or you don't like it. Chronic inflammation can be caused by diet, sleep, stress, or other life factors. Thank you, Wikipedia. Under what conditions would you rotate out a lift? I'll just hit that one. And I was just being sarcastic with the Wikipedia. Is there any reason why the standing barbell overhead press is so slow to progress? I'd like to know where you're at, and I'd like to know if you are doing a consistent bulk. Pressing will be slow, and I don't know your situation, but pressing will be slow if you are not keeping in a calorie surplus or routinely bulking. Does that make sense? And it wouldn't hurt to rotate in a seated dumbbell overhead press variation every other week. How many days a week do you train? Right now, about 5 is the goal. I'd actually like to train 6, just because I like to train, but I kind of balance out my volume so I can do it, so I can recover okay. Would you ever suggest people try 20 rep squats? I've done them, yeah. I mean, you can try them occasionally. I've done some good videos on 20 rep squats. And once your squat form is down and you get your squat over 225 to 275, you can start playing around with them. All right. What are some of the benefits of training in the higher rep range versus the lower rep range? Now we're getting into kind of a weedsy type of question. What I mean by that is like the demands of every exercise is different, okay? So really, we don't want a super wide variance of rep range for a specific exercise. Like, I'm not going to do 20 reps on pendlay rows because they're going to tear up my lower back, and plus I'd hate it. You could do 3 rep sets and like a cluster of 8 sets of 3 reps on a pendlay row, and that would be okay. So what we really want to look at is when we're looking at an individual lift, what is reasonable for that lift, okay? Like on squats, do I want to do 3 sets of 20 every week? Heck no. So I might want to do 1 set of 20 and do other reasonable work. It's more like what is reasonable and what is sustainable, right? Grunting is scientifically proven to add more power. Ask any female tennis player or her husband. Is a sharp twinge in your back, say, after heavy T-bar row, something to worry about? Well, we'd have to look at form, but the thing about lifting is if you train hard enough, and even if you train with good form, you're going to pick up a twinge, an ache, a pain, a strain here and there. That's all part of the process because we're breaking things down and we're rebuilding them in a sense. That's not literally, it's a dumbed down version, but you're building back stronger, right? So There are some people that think they can get through their entire lifting career without picking up an ache, pain, or strain. You can if you don't actually lift, right? But you're physically moving. Something's gonna get hurt. It doesn't necessarily mean that your form is off. Does that make sense? How long should it take for a natural lifter to gain noticeable muscle mass? You should be able to notice it in the first year. A minimum, even 5 pounds, even if you're kind of in that feeling out stage, you should be able to notice it. I miss those days when I started lifting, when I could blast my muscles without feeling like it's like the weight blew up too fast. Yeah, there are other things in the body that, we have to consider. Our connective tissue, our joints, that sort of thing. And not everything strengthens at the same pace. That's why we kind of need to evolve our training based on needs. We might need to change a rep range here or there, change a frequency here or there. Is dropping reps a little during a cut okay? If you're going, you want to be smart. If reps drop on a press, a little bit's okay. You might eventually have to drop the weight 5 pounds, but you want to be smart and safe. Yes, it can be normal. If it gets too low, just make sure you drop the weight just during cut, just a hair. In all seriousness, when does one choose 10-pound bulks in 3 months? It's not the way it works, to be honest with you. When you are dialing in a bulk, we give a range, and the reason why we give a range is because there's a break-in period for somebody trying to get into nailing their calorie intake so they can gain 10 pounds, but that's the window, right? You probably want to aim for about 10 pounds over 4 months, but there is some variance, and we just put in variance because there is some dialing in, if that makes sense. Let me go back a minute. If you're somebody that really can nail your cuts, then you can start to do a 6-month bulk for 15 pounds, 8 pound or 20 pound bulk for 8 months, or 6-month bulk for 15 pounds, 8-month bulk for 20 pounds, something that's around the 2.5 range, but it's a range. When training by myself, how do you really get heavy dumbbells up when doing a seated overhead press? There are some point, and it's a good question, where you're doing seated dumbbells where it's hard to get the weights into position. There are some times when I was working with 100s or 120s where you're trying to do a 2-arm clean to get those weights up, and it's just not working. What you do at that point is you switch to a single arm standing overhead press. Getting a single dumbbell into place, you get the advantage of using the other arm, and then you can get into position and press. So that's kind of the next progression when that happens. Are you going to do a Drunk Russian t-shirt? Well, I am coming out with the Drunk American program this week, so it would be fun to do a Drunk Russian, Drunk American shirt. If you had a chance to eat an ostrich egg omelet, would you try it? And if so, what would you want on it? I don't even know what the equivalent mass would be. Does anybody know? I'm laughing because I have no idea. How many eggs would it be, and how many grams of protein? Somebody want to Google that? Would you say 30 total weekly sets will still yield results? Yeah, if you can only train 2 times a week for like 15 sets, it's going to build muscle. You just have to train hard. Let's put it this way. If you maximize 30 sets, you're still going to build more muscle than the average guy in the gym trying to grind it out 4 to 5 days a week. Crom. No crom, no gains. No crom, no gains. That's it. I had a big week of PRs. What's your favorite way of celebrating progress when you make it? Continuing it. Seriously, like you get on those tracks and you want to honor that with food. appropriate amount of food. And man, once you get that feel, you just want to keep that rolling because that's the golden land where you make really good progress. If someone loaded a bar with heavy weight they know they can handle, do you think you can guess the weight by doing a single rep? If someone loaded a bar with a weight they know they can handle, do you think you can guess the weight by doing a single rep? I would say the stronger you get, the harder that can become. As I am warming up on bench, like 225 can sometimes, like I can do 225 by 3 and it can feel pretty heavy, right? And I'm like, ugh. And then I can rip off the next set 20 reps. So I think as the weight gets heavier, it can get more muddled. Does that make sense? Will you lose muscle? No. You don't really lose muscle in a calorie deficit. That's a myth propagated by our grandmas. It's virtually impossible to lose muscle when you're on a short-term cut and you're in a calorie deficit and still lifting. It really, really is. It's not something to worry about. Even if you lost an ounce, muscle memory is real and you'll get it back. It's not like it just gets flushed down the old shitter and it's gone forever. Blue Knight, do you like croc rows? Blue Knight, I will challenge you with a question back. Do you even massive iron? Have you seen my rows, my friend? Do you know how I row? No, I don't row exactly like a croc row. But have you seen Shaw rows? I'll challenge you with that. Now, I respect the croc rows. I'd also be curious to see what I could do taking the amount of anabolics that are involved in the croc rows. I lift weights, fasted in the morning. I eat my first meal immediately after training. No, the body's not that fragile. You do want to go in a little bit hydrated and with some sodium. So first thing out of bed, you want to have at least a little bit of water and a little bit of sodium. Sodium is an energy electrolyte, and you just want to make sure you're not under sodiumed or underwatered. Andreas, good day. I do dumbbell rows at work with scale weights. That's fine. However you can get it done, man. It's all about weekly volume. Good day, sir. Good to have you here. Got any tips for fighting off cravings? I've been strict on this plan since October, and cravings are slowly wearing me down. I would probably suggest 4 to 5 days where you're at maintenance level, where you're allowed to have a little bit of something you're craving without allowing that scale weight to go up. Does that make sense? Official, unofficial, official, unofficial. Thomas Massey, almost the same one. Almost the same as Congressman. Don't get me started. Well, what if we want to get you started? Paladin. Tips on preventing the chest from leaving the pad when doing chest supported machine rows. I let them do that. When I'm doing a chest support machine row, sometimes it feels better for me to be a couple inches off the pad. I just feel a better feel. So I'll say this. Concentrate on driving the shoulders and the elbows back. And in that motion, when you're pulling back, if you get a little bit of torso sway, that's okay. It's really, what's driving what. If you're pulling the elbows and shoulders back to get a good back feel and your chest leaves the pad, that's okay. Con, I agree. Join Team Massive. It's great. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. TeamMassiveIron.com. Me, you need 72 hard reps per set per week. Influencer. Tomorrow I have deadlifts. You need to get more upright. It's a discipline, man. It's awareness and a discipline. What's the proper way to do a stiff leg deadlift? Okay. So on a deadlift, we're going to try to do this right. This is your shoulders-ish, and this is your hips. So your hips are well below your shoulders on a deadlift. And then you pull and you drive the head straight up and your hips forward. Okay? That's a deadlift. Shoulders, hips. On a stiff leg deadlift, your hips are just slightly below your shoulders. And you brace and lock in, and you pull up from that position. So it's a more leverage unfriendly position. If somebody is truly pushing hard but also recovering too well, if you're recovering well, you could. But the problem is, like, for someone like Harut, who is pretty strong and a hard trainer, we risk, like, he trains hard. Somebody that's really training hard, you risk beating up the joints and the connective tissue. Are you hearing me? So you could slowly dial things up exercise by exercise or body part by body part. But we have to be really, really careful. I struggle with hamstring training. Romanians work, but I can't walk for 2 days. That's a good struggle, by the way. So you can do the hamstrings are almost all, that's generally a good sign. That's generally a good sign. Because the hamstrings, for me, generally get worked when I'm working them properly. They tend to get sore on squats for me. Not so much on leg curls. I don't particularly like leg curls. I do them anyway. Right? It's like flossing my teeth. So I'll get in my work for leg curls. You can also do a glute ham raise on a back extension station. You can do a single leg wall RDL where your butt's against the wall and you're doing a single leg. You can do good mornings, which you push back like a Romanian, but it's probably going to get you sore and work your lower back a little bit more. You can do a stiff leg deadlift, which we just talked about. Mostly, my friend, I don't see 2 days as a problem. I see that as a good thing. It means you're on track. So not being able to walk for 2 days, though, is like, wow. That can be tough. Is it impacting your quality of life or is it an inconvenience? That's the question. If it's preventing you from working, then we might have to make an adjustment. A lot of this has to do with, look, let's be real here. How hard do you want to work your hamstrings, right? How intensely do you want to work your hamstrings? I mean, do you want to be the biggest hamstrings in the world, or do you want to pull it back a little bit? If you want to pull it back a little bit, I'd probably go to glute ham raise on a back extension station and leg curls. And Cosmic Barrows had it to purge. If you could purge man buns, mullets, purple hair, or those big glasses those kids wear, what would you purge? What's the most horrific day a client told you about where they made it to the gym anyway? I don't know, man. That's a tough one to answer. I have a lot of people that are sleep deprived for whatever reason and go in. I've had clients with a number of issues, all kinds of issues. You stick around this long enough, you see all kinds of human issues. People, relatives passing away, spouses passing away, all kinds of things. You see people continuing to take care of themselves. So I don't know. It's a hard one to answer. Have you ever tried a Monster Zero? I almost had to go for the white today because they were all out of purple. And I didn't see the green immediately, so I grabbed 2 whites. And I put those suckers back. What other ways? You're really not going to get a lot out of them, man. You can try the bulldozer lateral. You can try rest pause. You can try doing 30s. You can try doing 40s. You can try doing block sets. A block set is 60, 90, 120 seconds. How many reps can I get during that time? Rest pause. Let's say you do 22 this time. You could get 23 next time. The beautiful thing about doing a block set or a timed set is that you can keep good form, but it's easier to add a rep to a point. I mean, you're going to get to a point where you're going to grind on it eventually because you can't just continue to get stronger on a lateral raise. I'm doing 30s and I can do some 35s, but that's as strong as I'm ever going to get. At some point on these exercises, you've run them out, right? And at some point, I just continue to do them. Like I continue to do lat pull downs, but I've run them out. I can't do any more weight. I can't do any more weight on lateral raises. So it's basically I'm holding the ship steady. So at that point, you have to decide, do I want to continue to do it or do I want to do something different? Jesse, off topic, which era in horror do you think is best? Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, I love the Terrifier films. Big fan. I love horror movies. When I look at my some of my favorites, obviously Alien and Alien 1s are amazing, and Event Horizon and Pandorum I love. Pandorum's a weird space horror movie. It's very scary. But at the end, when you figure out what's going on, you're like, wow, this is really deep, deeper than I thought. If we throw a space horror out of the mix, because Alien and Aliens, they're classics, really. They're just some of the best filmmaking that's ever been. And some of the best horror that's ever been, just from tension, right? A lesson in building tension. But let's just throw the space horror out. The 80s stuff, the 70s stuff, you got Friday the 13th, you got Halloween, you got Freddy Krueger. Fun stuff to watch, but does it really hold up? We watched the original Friday the 13th, part 1 and 2. It was all right. You know, it didn't really hold up. The tension didn't really hold up. When you're a kid, seeing somebody stabbed at camp, you know, was terrifying. I think Halloween holds up pretty well. But generally that era, hate me if you want, but I'd rather stick a fork in my eye than watching a Freddy Krueger movie. It's like watching a Winger concert to me. All right, hate me if you want. I get the appeal of it, but I don't know, the 80s, no. One of my favorite horror movies that are non-aliens. Sinister, I love Sinister. Sinister is good. I can repeat it and watch it over and over again. Babadook. Babadook is one of those interesting movies. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it. But that holds up. What's the Australian one where the folks go to the crater? I just had brain lock. What is that one? Why do I have brain lock on that? The Australian horror movie where the folks go to the crater. Da, 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 da. The 3 kids in the car, and then they get pulled back by the crazy man into his camp. I forget my brain. Ivan Milat. I love that movie. That holds up well. I think more of the movies post 2000 hold up well for me. They're really good ones. The Shining is brilliant. Good call. The Shining is brilliant. That's a brilliant pre-2000 horror movie. Absolutely brilliant and repeatable. It's not for everybody. but that's a brilliant movie. I think that in kind of Halloween pre-2000, but I think most of the movies that I look back on that I like watching are after 2000. Steve, thanks for tuning in. What would be a big meal after a workout look like during a cut? Well, I structure my workout so I can eat 1,000 calories after. And then pretty much that's at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And then Betty by time. So I do eggs and rice a lot. I do taters and bison or venison a lot. Ostrich egg, 2,000 calories. Whoa, sweet baby. That's a meal right there. That's your daily meal on a cut. Beefcake. I've been watching you for years and I've never posted at all. So I thank you now for all you do. Thank you. Credit you for a lot of my progress. Thank you. And I appreciate that. Anytime anybody takes time to give me feedback, I'll never be the biggest channel in the world, but that's not what I'm after. I'm after trying to give you guys the best information. And I like to have fun and put out workouts. And simplifying things for me is fun. So I'm glad to hear that. I especially thank you for the 5, 10, 10, 20, and 3 to 7 bench protocol. Great. I'm glad to hear it. I enjoy that as well. It's been one of the most successful programs I've ever put out. That's a lot. I appreciate your opinion on all out sprinting. Last year, I brought a sprint program to improve my 5-mile time. Week 1, I tore quads. I have trained, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back when I say this, but I've trained with 2 of the top running coaches in the world. And we would do surge days. And this is something that I pass along to my clients who are running. We do surges to help bring up our low end time, but once a week. And these are times that you can sustain for 60 to 90 seconds. So it's a lot safer, but this is good at bringing up your lower end speed. And I'm sorry to hear you went through that. Explosive movement, I just don't think is a smart choice for the average person. If you are bulking and a specific muscle group isn't growing, I'm not going to stop bulking. That's for sure. You can only do what you can do, right? So if you're pushing against the wall, you just got to continue to push against the wall. It'll eventually break. It will break. It will. I know for a fact. Is it okay if the bar drifts away from the shins and RDLs? No, then you're not doing an RDL. An RDL, you're focused on driving the glutes back to lower the weight while the weight stays close to your legs. If it starts to shift forward, you're not driving the glutes back, your weight is forward. Have you had to deal with shin splints? Yeah, I used to when I started running about age 13, and I dealt with them a lot in my early teen years. I don't know enough about them to know why they went away and they never come back, but I don't have issues with them anymore. I don't know if that's from building muscular strength over the years. Stupid question, but is it wise to train muscle groups I'm lacking only, or should I just do every part evenly? Well, you don't have to do every part evenly. You can have a specialization period. Let's say you do 12 sets for back, 12 sets for chest, 12 sets for quads, 12 sets for delts. You have 48 sets in that mix, but you want to focus more on delts. So let's say you want to add 9 more weekly sets to delts. And you're going to do a specialization. You pull that work from chest, back, and quad. So you're still getting in a lot of chest, back, and quad work. It's just more focused on the delts. I also wish to thank you for the cool exercises. Appreciate it. And I love to give out tools because I love to see what guys do with tools. That's kind of the fun of doing this. How do you balance lifting with a demanding job? I work 70 hours a week, and it's tough, but you need a tight schedule. You need everything planned. I feel like I have to pick one over the other. You might have to reduce time in gym a little bit and do 2 sets per exercise. You might have to make some concessions, but it can be done. Steve, how about a 2-time bodyweight deadlift, no belt, no straps, deadlift AMRAP? We do a lot of challenges on the community, but I'll think about that one. Could you explain fast twitch and slow twist muscle fibers and how don't overthink this stuff. You do not need to overthink this stuff. Don't. Pick a good selection of exercises that have a decent progression opportunity for each body part. I want you guys to hear me out. This is the influencer trap we get into. Hey guys, welcome to my video. In this video, I'm going to show you what fast twitch are and what slow twitch are and why you need to train everything. No. What you need to do is put together a reasonable grouping of exercises for each body part. These exercises need a decent progression opportunity. The exercises need to be sustainable, and you just need a bulk. That's all you need to do. You don't need to worry about all this influencer stuff. My question on Threes Max was really about the cracked up version turned up a notch. I think more people would find them cool as well. Yeah, it really comes down to the individual, where they're at, if that makes sense. Individuals, some people, more advanced, I will throw it in the mix. Big John. In the Mouth of Madness is a good one along those lines. Event Horizon Pandorum, but not sci-fi horror. Amityville, we watched the original last year. It wasn't bad. I think we got a little bored with it. Tropic Thunder is one of the best war movies of all time. Sam Neill, yes, from Event Horizon. The Shining, we went through that one. The Mist. I haven't seen The Mist in forever. I remember turning it off years and years ago. I don't know if I just didn't give it a choice. 17 by Wingers a pedo. Oh, we had to say that word live on. It's about right. That was the 80s, or was it the 90s? I don't know. Wacky people. Time to hit it. Get it. Smash on. Jesse. I love Babadook. That movie isn't appreciated enough. One of my favorites, and I get hate for it. One of the favorites that I get hate for, it's Blair Witch. Blair Witch scared the crap out of me, and I love that movie. I can't watch it anymore because it's shaky camera, and I get motion sickness, which sounds silly, but no, I think it's a classic. I just can't watch it anymore, which is a shame. You know what movie I like as well, which probably isn't considered sci-fi horror? War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise. I find it to be super tense, paced well. I love that movie. I know a lot of Gen Pop people don't like it. I think it's a brilliant movie. I could watch it every year. Steven, on the 5, 10, 10, 20, you decrease weight each set? No, sir. It's same weight. So what you're doing is you're training your central nervous system. And by the time you get to 20, things start to feel lighter as you peak towards a 20 rep set. See you in the Iron Church. Get after it. Sam, if you train most sets to failure, where the last set is a grinder, you'll need a deload sooner. Yeah, we don't like to do grinders on posterior work, so I want to make sure you're not doing that. But no, not necessarily. I can do grinders on bench every week and recover fine. It's really exercise specific outside of posterior movements, if that makes sense. Coming back to RER, is it better, simpler to just train until you cannot do any more clean reps? I think if we're talking hard training, we need at least one set per exercise that's pushed for max safe reps. If not, how do you know are you really training hard? How do you know when to progress? I'm going to go to 3 and then add 5 pounds. Eventually, that's going to turn into 1 Last call for questions, guys. We got 3 left. Last call. Hit chest for +1 and +2s. Got home, ate 3/4 kilo of pork ribs. That sounds like good living. Wife's at work. Kids are sleeping at grandma's. Good grief, man. That's a perfect storm. You better be careful. Buy lottery tickets. Do something, man. My response is with the demanding job being a CPA, even during business season. Yeah, you got to plan. I mean, it's people ask me how I do what I do. I plan. I don't waste time. Even when I'm working out here in between sets, I'll do a client message. Coming back to plat squats, I've been doing 125s for 3 sets of 5 to 7. It stalled for 2 weeks running. That's not a stall, though. I mean, if you add 5 pounds to your squat every 3rd week, that's adding 85 pounds a year. That's good progress. So I'm not sure if I'm missing something. I enjoy your content. I'm 6'4", 255. Should I do a bulk before my cut? If I cut, suggestions for my calorie intake. 40 pounds is a lot, man. I'd go deep. I'd go 2,000, 2,100 to start, and then see where you're, how fast the weight is moving off. But yeah, I'd get some fat off. Do you have to do 40 pounds right out of the gate? Not necessarily. You could lose 15, bulk 10, lose 15, bulk 10, lose 15, bulk 10. Okay. You could do something like that. Lose 15, bulk 8, lose 15, bulk 8. That way, that would be a 2-year plan. You could lose 28 pounds of flubber. So there are other ways to do it. But if you can rip off the Band-Aid and lose 40 pounds, that would be awesome. We have the same name. You think we aren't related. Better ask your mama. Just humor, folks. How do bulldozer sets fit in when calculating weekly volume? The bulldozer set, which is basically 5, sometimes 7 mini sets, is going to give you the same weekly volume as doing 3 sets of an exercise. So I count them as about 3 sets of an exercise. It's going to give you about the same reps. Say your high bar squat stalls. What would be the most relevant variation to sub in? We don't sub anything, and you're not going to stall. Stalls don't occur, Sam. Stalls only occur when stalls do not occur, guys. Stalls only occur when you're so damn strong that you're close to getting as strong as you could naturally. Stalls don't occur, and I'm being polite because I care. Natural slowing occurs. This is part of the process. That's not a stall, and we do not need to become reactionary and change exercises. Does that make sense? Say bulldozer. This is something I talked about this week, and I want you guys to understand this. Once you get reasonably strong, 180, 185 on the bench, adding 1 rep to a set only every 8 weeks, it's going to get you a 300-pound bench in 3 years. That's not a stall, guys. Hear me. That's not a stall. I want you to hear me. Are you listening? That's not a stall. That's normal progress. That's the way it works. You can't expect a rep every 3rd week once you have built a slight strength base. If your squat is 225 and you add a rep every 2 weeks, you're adding 130 pounds a year to your squat. That'd be 400 pounds in 3 years. You're not going to be squatting 625 after 3 years. No. It's more likely you're going to hit a rep every 7 to 8 weeks. And I'm stressing this because that's not a stall. That's normal progress. Many people don't want to hear it, but that's normal, guys. Jesse, can bulldozer sets help with a cut? No. Cutting is about diet. We don't use resistance training to try to burn fat. That's absolutely the wrong way. Resistance training, is doing rest pause work isn't going to expedite calorie burn by more than 10 a day. It's just not happening. A cut is all about food intake. And if you want to do a little bit of extra cardio, you can. All right, guys, that's it. We're out of here. 2 hours, 11 minutes. I thank each and every one of you. I do. For joining in. I appreciate all your questions. I really want to encourage you guys to join teammassiveiron.com. Please follow me on Instagram at Ben the Barman. And I thank you guys for supporting my channel. I'm here to help. Tough love, straight shooting. I'm just going to tell you guys what it takes. And I appreciate each and every one of you. It's us against the world. There's so much nonsense out there, so much bullshit out there, so much people trying to pull you away from the basics. I'm going to keep pulling you on track, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a great weekend. Thank you, and thank you. And we are out of here.
It's not almost over. It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.